So hi, welcome to Good Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Dave Munro from Air Traffic Controller.
And we have some questions to say about their new album, Dash. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to it so far?
Really great. It's a new record. We knew we'd be coming out to, play the hits and to hear people saying that they've been listening to Dash, and a lot of them saying that they started listening to it because they knew we were coming and they wanted to know the new stuff. So that feels really good to have people know these songs.
Hell yeah. You mentioned you guys are out on the road right now. It's the first time in nearly 4 years. Was there any sort of anxiety getting back out on the road and being back on stage?
Anxiety? No, I somehow I wasn't really nervous about performing at all. We have kept up our chops by playing, shows around New England, but none of those have been tours. So yeah, we're just happy to be doing our thing in new places.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
There's probably some anxiety in the band because we have a couple of people with us that haven't toured before, but they're such good performers. I don't know how anxious they were about it. Definitely anxious to be out here. We call them our tour babies, our tadpoles.
Oh.
So it was just kind of is it like riding a bike for you? Kind of being back out on the road?
Yeah, it really is.
That's awesome.
It feels good just to be out here and doing this for new people and reuniting with fans we remember from when we used to do this all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yes. And I kind of wanted to be secretive about it at first. But now, now that I'm meeting people, it's a good conversation piece. I'm telling them that the title Dash refers to the dash between the date you're born and the date that you die, like on a gravestone.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a funeral when we were recording the record. It was near the end of COVID, I guess. And the priest giving the sermon, told a story, basically referred to that dash as a lifespan, and was saying the person who had passed on, how much of a life they lived and what that dash meant. Mm-hmm. And that kind of asked everybody, what are you going to do with your dash, your little dash? Life is short, and all we have is this little line before we're gone, and what are we going to fill with it? And it just kind of blew my mind. It wasn't something he invented, but I had never heard it before, and nobody in the band did either. And when I came back, I said, well, why don't we name the album Dash, and we'll just put a dash on the cover. And everybody was super excited about it. So, and then what's on there is actually a dash that you would see on a runway or a street. Just the dotted line. It's just one of those dashes. Mm-hmm. So, and it's kind of worn out, and everybody thinks that it's like stars on the cover or something, like all these little speckles, but it's just the road, the street. And if you open up the package and hold it up, you see more dashes, and it all kind of makes more sense. But yeah, I've just been telling people about it, and they get more excited about the cover and the title and stuff. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that just blew my mind.
That's really fucking cool.
You mentioned this all kind of happened while you were recording the album. Does the album touch on what the album title means at all, or are they just kind of
Absolutely, yeah. That's what made it so important to me, because it did strike what we were trying to express on this record, and with this band in general. We just we just sort of preach in a way, for people listening to make the best of their lives and live it up. That's kind of our message all along, really.
Oh, yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album?
Well, we had, compared to last album, which did have some co-writing with the producer and a couple people in the band. This one was more like people's lives were changing a lot. They were moving away, and the band was sort of going through some big changes. And the last men standing really were the drummer Adam and me. There were people still tied to the band, but we were the ones that were really pushing to make a new record. Mm-hmm. And so he was working on instrumentals, because he does more than play drums. He had this giant like Borg Triton keyboard. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these things, but they're really heavy and huge. They're from the 90s, but a lot of weird sounds coming out of this thing. So he was sort of tracking these demos on there, and not really having a lot of recording experience, but you can actually record all the tracks on this keyboard. But once you shut it off, it's all gone. So you have to like play a lot of things live. It's almost like looping, really. And he played things back, and so he would have these little kind of crappy demos, but really inspiring. And he would send them my way, and it was sort of remote work, but we had started doing this before COVID. And so we did get together a lot and work that way. And it was just like a lot of co-writing where I would do most of he would come up with these demos and I would just start humming nonsense. And then I would be coming up with lyrics sort of usually on my drive home, or if I was with him, we'd get through it with a lot of him chiming in. Maybe he's not spitting out the lyrics, but I will, and he'll be like, "That's cool, but change that." Mm-hmm. And then, he's wanting me to. He was always saying. I remember when we were writing, I was saying like, people aren't going to get this part. And then I'm like, it's too specific, but he kept telling me not to be afraid of being specific. I remember that. Because it doesn't matter. You say something specific and people can still relate to it, even if it's not the specific thing that you say. Mm-hmm. It's the feeling. So I love writing with Adam. We're going to do a lot more of that. So, and the whole band has been, writing more songs together. So I'm excited to see where we go next, co-writing as a band all together in a room, because we've done it a few times, and it's a new way of writing now that we're doing, sort of everybody in the room, Bobby on electric guitar, always coming up with cool things and inspiring songs. We were on stage last night and he was doing something and I had to like record it on my phone. I'm like, that's a song right there. So the writing process changes all the time, and it's always exciting when a new method comes up. So we don't stick to one way of doing it, really.
Well, it's awesome to hear that it's very collaborative within the group, and it's not just like one or two people that write everything,
Yeah.
It has become that way, where it's so collaborative now. In the early records, it was really like me and my acoustic demos, mm-hmm. Showing them to a producer who was very like hands-on and already had it like a picture of how the recording would sound in his head. Mm-hmm. But on Dash, it was really like having 5 producers make the record, which took so long, but I think it was worth it, because we let everybody get their ideas out. No, we were never like, nah, let's not try that idea. We just tried everything. And then sort of when we got to the end of making the record, well, when we were all separated and we had all this extra time because we didn't want to drop the record during the pandemic and not support it or anything. So we had all this time to really super analyze Dash, and we wound up like muting a lot of tracks on every song. I mean, just to see if the songs could stand without all the ideas on them. Mm-hmm. And then we would maybe sneak some back in that we thought it needed, but we didn't really want to give the songs. We didn't really want an overlay, so we started stripping them back a bit, and then sometimes adding more stuff too, but in different ways with people like Bobby, like playing new parts because he joined the band when we were back in studio, finishing the record. The new stuff that he was coming up with was awesome. So good. I'm glad that we didn't just like put out the same record we thought was gonna come out during that time period where the pandemic hit. We got to kind of have all this whole pandemic experience sort of contribute to the record, really. We even put out a song during the pandemic that I had to record the lyrics. I mean, I had to record the vocals in my garage, and it was like during the height where nobody would go near each other. So I was in my garage. We set up a microphone. This is just us trying to finish one song remotely so we could get something out there to the fans because we promised them a record. I had one guy in the band, Steve, in the driveway on his laptop, sitting in his Prius, running cables under my garage door, and I'm singing inside. And that's how we finished the song Sometimes that was in there. And because that was the closest. That song was almost done. And but the whole album we thought was about 75% done. But the work we did on it when we finally got back together really made it what it is too. So
holy shit.
All these weird different methods of writing and recording happened on this one. So we're excited to share that.
Yeah. The pandemic recording process that you shared is definitely one of the most interesting ones we've heard. It's been a lot of, I tracked in my living room and then I sent it to the producer. No one like got together but didn't get together kind of thing,
Yeah.
It's definitely creative.
Yeah.
It worked. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So what song off this album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
My personal favorite right now, I mean, it's the new one. It's the one I listen to the most. Yeah. And it took the longest to make too. Yeah, it was a marathon, this making this record. We kept the faith, but yeah, something kept telling me like, God, this thing's never going to come out. And we had one of our players moved to California, and he was working so hard. His name's Adrian, working remotely, that he kind of got burnt out on, and he said, like, I can't keep doing this. I'm in California and all my focus is going on, trying to make this record that we don't know when it's coming out. So I pretty much left the band. And so a lot of things seem to be falling apart and being rebuilt during this period. So, and our producer, I haven't mentioned yet, but Dan Cardinal really let us produce the album with him. So it was a collaborative from a production standpoint as well. All the other records were produced by a guy named Blue, and he was very, very hands-on. He knew the records he wanted to make. He had a sound in mind for ATC, what it should be. And I'm so glad that that's where we are, because it gave us like a starting point, like what we can sound like. And then, making this record, we did keep that in mind, but we also kind of threw that out the window at the same time. Like now we're in charge of what this is going to sound like. And Dan Cardinal, the producer, was like a member of the band, contributing ideas, but at the same time, like such a pro at making this thing sound good and keeping us on track.
Oh yeah.
So
how'd the track list for your album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, close be a closer? Did you shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Oh, that's fun. That's something I obsess over for sure. Yeah, we never planned to do it that way. We worked, one song at a time, and then just obsessed on different orders, and probably have a note on my phone with like, at least 10 different ways we can do it. But I think, it was probably one of the first two ways that we thought it should go. Opening with 20 made so much sense. It's just, that song is just such an opener. It was our first single. So, but it just kind of grows and has the horns. That saxophone is played by Dana Colley from the band Morphine. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him, but really probably one of the most well-known saxophone players in the business. And he lived right there in Boston. So we got a hold of him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anybody who knows Morphine will hear that in the song. It's pretty cool.
Hell yeah. And the closer makes so much sense. I don't know if there was ever a point in your process where it was anywhere else, but it just makes sense at the end, even like with the mix kind of being different, just like the way it sounds.
Mm-hmm. You talking about the hidden track or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we knew that was going to be the hidden track anyway. Okay. Or that it was going to be last at least, and to end with Walk. And then I said that when we recorded that song live in the room, and my plan was to, after we finish, for everybody to just put down their instruments and walk out of the room. And that's kind of how it happened. I forget how exactly we did it, but we recorded the song after. We wound up using that walking around noise. So we have a track of hidden track of noise, basically, which is the tape. It sounds like it's something from outer space, but it's just the tape rewinding the whole album. So you actually hear the whole record in reverse at super high speed, and it takes only like a minute. So yeah, if you slowed it down and flipped it in reverse, it might make some sense musically. Right. But yeah, it's and then that's followed by noises of us just setting up the microphone for me to play the song "Kissed You in the Morning," which is an old song actually I wrote for Nordo, one of the early records that we wound up not. It was just a demo. And we didn't end up recording that song for the album, Nordo, but the band heard it and they're like, Dave, this song, like, you have to share this with the world. Yeah. So I'm glad I did. It's very personal, and yeah, I still get a little choked up hearing my own song, but I'm glad I got that real personal stamp on that last moment of the record. So
absolutely. And because it is an older song and it was, written for another record, did you have to rework it in any way, or did you just leave it how it was?
We really wanted to recapture the demo, but there were a couple things about it that made it not good enough quality. And from a recording standpoint, I think I had recorded that I think I recorded that in my brother's basement on our own little studio. My brother and I, when I got out of the Navy, we built our own recording studio in his basement, and it was legit. I mean, it had the glass wall, and we had lots of equipment. We bought some nice stuff, and it was soundproof and everything. And we made a lot of what we thought were pretty awesome demos. And that's really what I think. I mean, the songs I think grabbed that producer Blue to make the records, but we think that the quality of the demos was also really important. But anyway, that demo, it had some lyrics in it that I didn't really, I never liked. And it's like, two sentences maybe that I wanted to change. And I'm glad that we did that. So Dan did a really good job capturing what was special about that demo. He set up one microphone and recorded me playing the song. And then after it was done, he played the song back through an amplifier, an old guitar amp, and put a mic in front of that amp and recaptured the song that way.
Oh, shit.
It was really, it sounds cool. It sounds like a demo, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome. It's like a produced demo, but it's like,
exactly.
that's fucking awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And all that walking around, it's like the band walking around the room and going up the stairs to that control room at that studio. You have to go up some stairs to get to it. It's a really cool place. Like there's isolation rooms in there. So we were able to record live together without too much bleed. And it's like a legendary old space that Dan rebuilt. It's called Dimension Sound Studios, and some cool stuff happened. Like "Bad to the Bone," that old song.
Yeah.
That was recorded in that studio, but then since then it had shut down and everything, and Dan it was full of rubble, and Dan rebuilt the place, and it's such a cool studio. Everybody should record there.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
In Boston. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So are you able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
It was kind of all over the place in a way. I had sort of gotten this way of songwriting. I took a class. I attended a class. I remember Blue was teaching a class at Berkeley. He was our first producer. He's a singer-songwriter. He's got a lot of albums out there, BLEU. And I sat in on one of his classes, and he had asked me a lot about songwriting in my method, because he likes me as a songwriter, and a dude too.
I would hope so. Yeah.
But what I told him, the most important thing to me is the concept. When you're writing a song, it's not the riff usually, and it's not. It's never for me been to sit down and write a song. It's usually something I have a feeling. I basically told him the concept is key for me. If I don't have that, I don't have a song. I can't just write lyrics and see where the song goes. I have to have the concept. And I think the air traffic controller songs are very, very concept heavy. And he sort of said that that's important to him too. And that if you think about it, you can just come up with a song title first and then write your song. And usually the title leads you to the concept anyway. So I started changing my process a little bit, just to deal with writer's block and just writing down titles. So I have this massive list of titles in my phone now. And sometimes when I hear something I like, I can start from a riff that I like, and still focus on a concept, because I have all these titles. I can find a title that sort of matches the vibe, if if a song reminds me of like the beach or something and I have a title that's ocean or whatever, then I have a starting point. It gets me out of that block. So I guess that's that doesn't really quite answer your question about my headspace, but that has really become my writing process, is really starting from that concept, and knowing what my process is has really helped me find new ways to do it. And that was one that really helped me. But my headspace was sort of like excitement because I was working with somebody, Adam, at first, who was like excited to write songs, and then also in a place of desperation a little bit, because I didn't know where the band was going to go from there. I had started a young family, so had another guy in the band, Steve, who's not out on tour with us, but he still plays with us. So it was like, where do we go from here? Kind of was really the vibe, the movie. Yeah. That was really my mindset, was where do we go from here? And also like, sky's the limit. It really doesn't matter. This could be the end of air traffic control, or it's going to just be a new chapter. And we quickly realized that it's a new chapter, and we can't do what we did before, exactly, minus some things. Like, we have to do something new, and that's how we did it. It's the only way it was going to happen, really. So throw the book out the window.
All right, that makes sense. So this question should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words, no more, no less.
Warm, personal, and relatable.
Nice. That's
and
good.
I'll combine warm with warm hug.
Aww, that's cute.
Something the producer said during recording one of the songs. He's like, the song is like a warm hug. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to aim for that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments from the creation of this album, positive or negative?
Challenging. I mean, absolutely. When we had to continue making the record remotely, it was so challenging, and we did a lot of really good work, especially with Adrian in California. It was so challenging that he wound up leaving. But also I think he was just being very forward looking and fair with us, that he was on the other side of the country, and we had to find another way to do it. And that was such a big challenge, and so glad that we found Bobby and were able to get through the rest of making the record. And like I said, we recorded them a couple new songs to fill out the record, and we wound up, the producer was like, why don't you guys just do them live and I'll record it. It's easy to do in this space. And I was afraid, because we really have never done that. We're very like, track it, clean it up, this is pop, and then we had like this real like rock and roll moment in the studio where we're all just like playing these songs with this new guitar player, and it really brought us together, as a unit. So that was us overcoming the challenge of losing someone. Gaining someone made it all better. And another standout moment was we were recording. There's probably a sound on every record at least once where air traffic controller like introduces something that you have no idea what it is, but you like it. Mm-hmm. And it's like on Black Box, it's like the first thing that you hear on the record on People Watching is like this weird like marxophone. But we did things like that on every record. Mm-hmm. And on this one, we were recording the song Fool's Gold, and like it's this real like eerie warped sound that happens throughout that song. And it was Dan had this marimba. I forget what it's called. Kalimba, I think it's called. It's like this little box with little metal tabs on it. And you find it at you find them at like probably Cracker Barrel or something like this. Like,
that sounds right. Yeah.
Silly little instrument.
Yeah.
And so we used that, but we put a microphone on it and then amped it with a Leslie, which is like an amplifier with that spins around. Mm-hmm. So you get like this really weird the Beatles used it a lot in psychedelic ways, but it's kind of an old amp. So we did that, and then Dan plugged it into a bunch of like guitar pedals, and he just made this really weird like bed of sound, and it sounds like, it reminded me of like being out in nature in a way, because you have like this little like this like is it animals, is it, I don't know, but anyway, that was like such an exciting moment. Like I broke out the phone. I'm pretty sure we put that on Instagram. ATC Music is our Instagram handle. If you go back to, we posted some stuff of us making the record, and we recorded us doing that, and it was such a cool moment. I'm like, this is it. This is our weird thing that we did on this album. Like no one's gonna know how we did it, but I just told you. So, yeah, that was my exciting and challenging stuff that we did.
All right, I love that.
Yeah. I just want to say before we move on to the next question, I think it's just crazy impressive how you guys were able to use at least at minimum 5 different writing processes, and you were still able to make a very cohesive and enjoyable album. That's just crazy to me. That was all I had to say. Yeah,
that I do say that's why it took so long, but I think it was worth the wait. You know, I kept saying to everybody, I had heard that U2's Joshua Tree album was like that. It was so much fighting. We didn't fight though. We were all pretty chill about it. But that record, they were four, couple producers and a couple, heavy-handed people in the band. I'm sure Bono and The Edge were 2 of them. But there were so many different people trying to make a different record on the Joshua Tree for U2. Yeah. And it's the greatest albums of all time. Yeah. And I just kept reminding myself and other people that this is a good thing that we're arguing, you know?
Absolutely. So for this question, since you're on tour, we have to ask, what's been your go-to snack at a gas station or a rest stop?
Oh my God. Mine is very boring, and Joe will hate me for saying this, but I like bananas. And Joe, our bass player, I wish he was here because he'd be like running out of the room just hearing the word banana. He just doesn't like them, which I think is crazy.
The fuck has he got against bananas, man?
But there's been a lot of beef jerky, which I think is fine. But I think one of the worst smells in the world is someone else's beef jerky. Yeah, you know, it's that and someone else's tuna fish, but we haven't had any tuna fish this tour. But those are.
I'm sorry. Who the fuck is bringing tuna fish in a tour bus?
Nobody do that. But I just reminded everybody that the 2 worst smells in the world are someone else's tuna and someone else's beef jerky. And I think both tuna and beef jerky are delicious. But if I'm not consuming them, I cannot smell them. No. And I need to give a shout out to the giant Rice Krispie cake. What is it? Rice Krispie treat. It's like bigger than my hands are holding up right now. It's like this massive square. Oh my God. Emmy picked it up in a truck stop, and we've just been grossly like grabbing sections of it and eating it. There's still half of a sheet in the car. So it's been funny. I need to talk about one other thing that happened with the beef jerky.
Oh God.
One night Emmy came in the hotel room with the beef jerky and a jar of Tostitos cheese, and she was dipping the beef jerky in the cheese and like airplaning it to people's mouths.
No,
It was
no.
the grossest thing I'd ever seen. And she basically force fed it to everyone, but was nice enough not to do it to me. So
Thank God.
thank you, Emmy.
You're spared.
That's fucking disgusting.
Right?
That's like
Absolutely.
That's foul.
Oh.
Yeah, it's foul. Yeah. Everybody did it but me, and I'm not, I don't regret it.
Good.
I couldn't,
Good.
I would have bombed him right there.
Completely fair reaction, honestly. Yeah.
But everyone thought it was really delicious, right? I mean, it probably tasted like a cheeseburger or something, but I don't know. Spicy cheeseburger? No.
Maybe,
no.
maybe not. I don't think so, but maybe.
You could have found out for yourself.
Yeah. You still have time to.
Yeah, maybe after the last show, I'll do that. There's a lot of things I'm going to do after the last show. I'm just going to let it
rip.
Exactly. Why the hell not? So for these last couple of questions, we're going to shift away from music, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Sure.
Awesome. So we're actually going to go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Oh man. Probably not that. It would be
Good.
tacos and a beer.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Soft shell, crunchy shell. I'm sorry, it's a very important question.
I would want a food truck to pull up to the jail, and it would be like, it would have to be drive over from Texas. If the jail wasn't in Texas, I would need them to come to me.
Mm-hmm.
I would get maybe like an al pastor or maybe a barbacoa.
Fuck yeah.
Carnitas, something. Ooh. Yeah. Like a 3 taco deal there. And then, yeah, maybe for a beer, although it wouldn't be quite the pairing, I would want like an English ale or lager. I'm kind of into pilsners now too, but I think I'd probably go with an English ale, not too dark, something like light.
Okay.
But not one of those warm beers. We've been to England and it sounds gross, but I wouldn't call it warm beer, but they serve beer over there that's not cold. And I gotta say it was okay. But I prefer a cold beer. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
Oh, Avatar. Yeah.
Pandora or Last Airbender? Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen The Last Airbender. I need to see that. But
the show was good. Don't watch the movie. Don't watch that shit. Don't waste your time. Hell no.
Yeah, I just saw Avatar. It was probably one of the last things I saw in the theater. And I really am sad I can't go there.
Mm-hmm.
So, cool. Yeah. Maybe Star Wars. I don't know. I'd probably get killed quicker there. So Avatar, Pandora. Yes.
Pandora. Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. So I have the honor of asking the last question. Every single person we've spoken to has actually said it is the most important question.
Uh-oh. Listen.
What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Specific shade of blue?
Turquoise.
Turquoise.
Nice. I don't know. I really like, I do like straight Superman blue as well. So
classic.
Tough one. Yeah. I'm going to go with classic blue. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Sounds good.
Blue.
All right. So as Gloria said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
We have more shows. We are headed home. We're playing Chicago, but in New England, we're playing a bunch more. We've got a big show coming up. We're kind of calling it our homecoming / album release show. Even though it's a little bit after the tour, it's a little bit after the album release. It's our first big thing. It's our first show of this kind in Boston since this record was made. And we're playing at the Sinclair in Boston, which is an awesome venue. So need to plug that September 8th. We're also playing, anybody. We've been on tour found a couple people that are coming to our Beachcomber show on Cape Cod. Cape Cod's obviously a summer destination. So when we play there, it's an event. It's a magical experience where you can spend the day on the beach. The club sits on a cliff overlooking a gorgeous beach on Cape Cod. I'll have my shark tracking app out and I'll be swimming all day on the beach. And then we go up and play a show. And then after the show, we come back down to the beach and have a fire and we're singing and we're just chilling. It's the best. It's a real highlight of the year. Luckily, we've been able to play the Beachcomber every year. Pandemic interrupted that a little bit, but that's one of our favorite places to play ever. So, and then we're playing Riverfest for a radio station up where we live. It's great. 92.5 The River is having this annual festival, and we get to play that in August, as well. So psyched about those shows. They're all, when we get home, we have big ones that we're looking forward to. So and some of the bands that we played with, we booked this tour ourselves, and we pretty much handpicked all the bands that were opening. It was really hard to book our own tour. We hadn't toured for so long. We just didn't have an agent. And it was like the only way we could get it done was to just do it ourselves. Mm-hmm. And it also took forever. And it's why we ended up at a lot of these weird venues. We just had to get out and make it happen. And we found the openers on our own. So they're all good. I can't name them all, but like Colin Bracewell, we just played with. Let's Be Kids. We played with Beachmont, unbelievable band. This girl, Maggie Shays, we played with last night. She blew our mind. Check out all the people that have been opening for us, because we found them and added them, and we were really excited to play with them. So those are my shout outs.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening. It's been Dave from Air Traffic Controller, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.